My name is Michael Aaron Blake, born February 14th, 1993 in Stockton, California, and you can write that down for your records if you want, because I know that's all you people ever care about. Dates, times, neat little facts that make you feel like you're solving something. I grew up moving around. I never had roots, never had anyone telling me I was worth anything, and maybe that's why I learned early how to disappear into the background, to observe, to wait, to decide when the moment was mine. And when I met Sophie Harper, I thought I finally had something that was worth staying visible for, but her family didn't see it that way. They looked at me like I was temporary, like I was disposable, and they made the mistake of thinking they had the right to erase me. They told me no, they told her no, they shut every door in my face and expected me to walk away like some obedient stray, and that's when I realized what they would never understand. When you try to bury a man like me, you only make him permanent. And so I went to that house on Willowbend Drive not to beg, not to argue, not to persuade, but to show them that choices have weight, that rejection is not without consequence, and every single thing I did there was deliberate, a design, a composition, a message that could not be erased. You'll call it brutality, you'll call it madness, you'll slap a label on it so you don't have to think too hard, because that's what the law does. It makes words into cages. It makes neat little categories so you can pretend you have control, but you don't. You never did, because you're just walking into a story I already wrote, and I left you the pieces on purpose. The objects, the fragments, the proof that I was there, and you can call them trophies, but to me they are signatures, and a signature lasts longer than any judgment in a courtroom. Do you think a judge, a jury, a sentence will undo what I've done? No, all they can do is repeat my name. Over and over, like you're doing right now. Michael Aaron Blake, the man who turned a family's denial into his permanence. That's the truth you don't want to face. I won, because you will remember me, Detective Hayes will remember me, Sophie will remember me, and this county will carry my shadow long after your case files collect dust. So you can call this a confession if you need the paperwork to say so, but I call it what it really is. A declaration, a statement of authorship, a reminder that I refuse to be erased, and that refusal will outlive every one of you. You think putting me in this chair in this little grey room means you've broken me? No, Detective Hayes, this is just another stage, another platform, and I know the red light on that camera is hungry. It wants my words, it wants my face, and you'll give it to the media because that's how you feed your machine. The evening news will take my sentences, chop them up, put them under bold headlines, monster, killer, madman, and you'll pat yourselves on the back like you're protecting the public, when in reality you're just handing them my name on a silver platter. Do you think I mind? No, I want them to say my name. I want the anchors in Los Angeles, the papers in San Francisco, hell, even the vultures in New York to put Michael Aaron Blake in their headlines, because fear spreads faster than justice, and I already know which one lasts longer. You keep circling around motive like it's some puzzle you're clever enough to solve. Love denied, rejection, anger. But that's only part of it. You think this is about Sophie and her family, but you're wrong. That was just the spark, not the fire. The truth is you never saw the fire because you weren't looking in the right places, while you're busy running fingerprints and measuring blood spatter. You forget that people like me don't exist in a vacuum. I'm not the only one who sees through the hypocrisy of your system. I'm not the only one who understands that control is an illusion. Do you really believe this was the first house? Do you really believe this was the only family? No, detective, there are others. Different names, different cities, different nights when the world shifted and no one noticed, because you were too busy chasing yesterday's crimes. And here's the part that will really bother you. I wasn't always alone. Sometimes, when permanence calls, there are others who hear it too. Others who are willing to step into the shadow with me. You won't find them because they don't want to be found, and unlike me, they don't crave the camera, but they're out there, waiting, listening, watching the news like everyone else, seeing how far my name travels. So when you stand in that courtroom pointing at me like you've caught the devil himself, remember this: devils multiply. You didn't stop anything, you just made me louder, and you lit a signal for the ones who already understood. My name will echo, but so will theirs. In time. That's not a threat, Detective Hayes, that's just inevitability. You keep asking if I feel sorry, if I regret it, if somewhere in this cold little heart of mine there's an ounce of remorse waiting to be squeezed out, and every time you ask that question you prove you don't understand me at all. Regret is for people who wish they could change the past. I don't wish that. I built the past. I carved it into something permanent, and now you sit here begging me to undo it with some teardrop confession. But no, you don't get that satisfaction. You want remorse because it makes your job easier. A crying killer, a broken man, a shattered soul. That's the story you like to sell to juries and television crews. It makes you feel righteous, like you cured a disease. But what happens when the man across the table doesn't break? What happens when he sits here smiling, telling you that everything he did because he wanted to, because it made sense, because it gave him clarity? That's when the mask slips off your whole system, because then you realize you have no cure, no answer, no control. All you have is a cage and a calendar, and you cling to those like they mean something. Do you think I care about the trial? About 12 bored strangers staring at me, waiting to be told what to believe. They'll sit there, sipping their water, shuffling their notes, pretending to carry the weight of justice on their shoulders, and in the end they'll do exactly what they were told to do. They'll stamp my name with a label. Guilty, murderer, life without parole, death row. Doesn't matter which one, because the truth is the trial is just a performance, and I'm the headline act. They'll look at me, the way people look at a wreck on the highway, horrified but unable to turn away. I'll own that courtroom just like I own this tape, because people remember the spectacle, not the verdict. And the judge? Another actor in a row banging a gavel like it means more than thunder. He'll say words like order, sentence, justice, but all the while his voice will shake when he reads my name, because even he knows he's just a line in my story. He'll go home at night, sit in his quiet little house, and hear me in his head. That's not justice. That's infection. So no, I don't feel sorry. I don't feel anything that makes me weak, and I won't hand you that victory. You can chain me. You can bury me in a cell. You can strap me to a table. But you can't erase me. I am not begging for forgiveness. I am not searching for redemption. I am the reminder you didn't want. The scar that doesn't fade. And every time my name is spoken, on the news, in a courtroom, in some midnight conversation when people whisper about the things they fear most, I win again. You want to know the truth? The Harpers didn't raise their voices. They didn't threaten me. They didn't attack me. They simply lived. They simply had opinions, and they thought those opinions mattered. That's all. Nothing they said was a death sentence. Nothing they did was a crime. The crime was mine alone. I chose to make their silence eternal. I could have walked away. I could have left that night with nothing more than bruised pride, but I didn't, because walking away has never been in my nature. Don't get it twisted. There was no grand insult, no unforgivable cruelty on their part. The act was mine, the blood was mine, the decision was mine. I want that on record because you people love to hunt for reasons. You love to say, they pushed him too far. No, they didn't push me. I stepped over the edge by myself because that's what I wanted to do, and because I wanted them to carry my shadow even after they were gone. I remember every step inside that house, because none of it was chaos, none of it was frantic. It was measured, paced, like a sequence I'd already rehearsed. Mr. Harper was first. He was the biggest presence, the one who thought his word carried final weight. I dealt with him quickly, without conversation, because silence was stronger than any argument I could have had. Then came Mrs. Harper, and she wasn't screaming. Not at first. She was frozen, holding on to denial as if stillness could change the outcome. I broke that stillness for her. After that, it was the brother. He tried to run, and I almost admired that, because at least he moved, at least he understood what was happening, but admiration doesn't erase inevitability. And then Sophie. No, not Sophie. Not yet. She was last, because everything in me wanted her to understand what permanence really meant. And I wanted her to see the void her family left behind. I made her stand in that emptiness, and I let her feel the weight of being the final one, the one who carried my shadow longest. People will call it cruelty, they'll call it sadism, but I call it structure. I didn't lash out, I didn't stumble, I designed it, layer by layer, and that design is what makes me different from the savages you put in cages. They lose control, I took control, and in the end it wasn't screaming or pleading or blood that stayed with me. It was the silence after, the silence that told me the house, the family, the story, all of it now belonged to me. Sophie. I know they'll play this tape for you one day, maybe in a courtroom, maybe in some back office with a detective trying to watch your face, but don't kid yourself. This part isn't for them, it's for you. You're the only one left who carries both sides of this story. The memory of what they were and the mark of what I made them. That makes you mine in a way they'll never understand. You can walk around, you can pretend you're free, you can change your name, move states, marry someone else. But none of it will matter, because you'll always wake up with me in the back of your mind. That's the permanence I was talking about. They'll tell you I destroyed your family, but that's only half true. I didn't destroy them, I authored them. Their story ends with my name, and yours continues because I let it. That's not mercy. Don't confuse it. That's design. I left you standing not because I couldn't finish, but because I wanted a witness who couldn't unsee, who couldn't unknow, who couldn't escape the gravity of me. Every time you hear a gavel, every time you see my name in print, every time you think about the word survivor, you'll think of me first. You don't get to choose what defines you anymore, Sophie. I chose it. And long after the jury forgets, after the judge retires, after the headlines fade, you'll still be here carrying my shadow. That's the real sentence, and it's not yours to appeal. So now it's your turn, isn't it? All of you watching this on your screens, leaning forward in your chairs, whispering about monsters and tragedies like it's a bedtime story you're too scared to admit you enjoy. You sit there with your coffee and your hashtags, telling yourselves you're horrified, that you're different, that you'd never glorify something like this. And yet here you are, eyes wide, waiting for the next sentence, the next detail, the next drop of blood you can turn into a headline. Don't act like I don't know how this works. The networks will cut this tape into clips. The anchors will call me a monster, and every time my face flashes across the screen, your ratings go up. You like to believe you're above it, that you're witnesses to justice, but you're not. You're consumers, and I'm the product. You don't just want justice, you want a story. You want a villain you can hate, and a survivor you can pity. You want to look at me and think, I'd never do that, and at the same time, tell me more. That's why my name will outlast your outrage, because fear sells and you're buying. Call me evil, call me insane, call me whatever label makes you feel better, but every time you say my name, every time you click another article, every time you tell a friend, did you hear about him, you make me permanent. That's not me feeding off you, that's you feeding off me. I've already won. Do you think I ever cared about the courtroom? About the badge on your chest or the gavel on the bench? Those are toys for small minds. What I care about is this moment, the moment my words move beyond this room and into the ears of whoever is listening. Because I know you're out there. Not the gawkers, not the journalists, not the ones who just want another headline. I'm talking to the ones who have felt it, the weight of being invisible, the humiliation of being told you don't matter, the quiet rage that builds behind your teeth until you can taste metal. You know who you are. They call me a monster, but monsters are myths, and myths spread. People carve them into walls, whisper them to their children, make them bigger with every retelling. I'm not begging for followers. I don't need disciples. I'm simply telling you the truth. You're already listening, already curious, already imagining what it would be like to take control instead of bowing to someone else's script. That's not me planting a seed. That seed was already there. I'm just the storm that shows you what happens when it grows, and you'll clutch your pearls and say I'm glorifying violence, but you'll still listen. You'll still replay my tapes. Because somewhere, deep down, you want to see the mask ripped off. You want to know what someone looks like when they stop pretending. That's what I am. Not a warning, not a mistake, a revelation. So write your articles, run your specials, tell your stories about the madman in California. You can call it justice. You can call it sin. You can call it evil. I call it a mirror, and sooner or later, you'll see yourself in it. You keep calling these recordings confessions, but they're not confessions. They're architecture. Every word, every pause, every look into that little red light is a brick. You're building a prison you think will hold me, but you're also building a monument and my name is etched on every stone. That's what you don't understand. You can cage the body, but not the story. You've already given me something rarer than freedom, permanence. I don't crave mercy, I don't crave forgiveness. Mercy and forgiveness are ways of erasing. I crave being unerasable, and you've given it to me. Every article, every headline, every whispered conversation about me at kitchen tables and in classrooms and on midnight forums makes me larger than I ever could have been, walking the streets of Stockton or Willowbend Drive. You think you're destroying me with your justice. You're making me infinite. I am not a warning. I am not a lesson. I am the proof that your rituals, your trials, your sentences, your moral codes are paper walls. I tore through them, and you can't look away. That's why you're still here, Detective Hayes. That's why Sophie still hears my voice. That's why the public keeps watching. Because you want to believe I'm contained. But every time you say my name, every time you play my tapes, I escape the cell and walk into your minds. So call this what you will. A confession, a manifesto, a sermon, a virus. In the end, it doesn't matter. All that matters is the echo. My echo. You think you've catalogued it all, that you've mapped out every inch of Willowbend Drive, scraped every surface for fibres, counted every stain, lined up every photograph in your evidence locker. But you only know the story I let you see. That's the part you never seem to grasp, but you're still playing a game I set up before you even knocked on my door. You keep asking if there were other nights, other places, other names. I've given you enough to fill your reports, enough to satisfy the headlines, enough to build your case. But not the whole thing. Not the places I went when no one was looking. Not the things I buried where you'd never think to look. There are details in plain sight, but they don't make sense to you yet because you're still trying to fit them into your version of the story. And maybe one day, months or years from now, a hiker will stumble across something in the hills, or a renovation crew will tear down a wall and find a mark, or someone will open a box in a storage unit and feel the echo of what you all missed. And the headlines will come back, and my name will rise again, and you'll realize you were still inside my design the whole time. I don't say this to help you. I don't say this as a taunt. I say it because it's the truth. You didn't catch me. I handed myself to you, gave you a story you could handle, and you swallowed it whole. But the real story is still out there, waiting, growing, like a second shadow. And when it surfaces, you'll remember this tape, and you'll understand. Michael Aaron Blake is not a chapter you close. He's the ink in your book. This isn't instruction. This isn't a manual. It's a mirror. The people who stare into it will see what they're already carrying, not what I give them. You can't become me by copying me, because the moment you try, you've already failed. You're just an echo. The only reason my name has reached you is because I stopped being an echo. You want a lesson? Here it is. Systems aren't built to protect you. They're built to contain you. They teach you to stay small, stay polite, stay invisible, and when you finally snap, they act surprised. I didn't snap. I stepped. There's a difference. A snap is a mistake. A step is a choice. And I've lived every moment like a choice. That's why I'm permanent. You want to know how to be remembered? Stop waiting for permission. Stop asking for someone to hand you a script. Stop telling yourself you're powerless. That's it. That's the whole secret. Everything else you've heard about me, the headlines, the details, the courtroom stories, is just noise wrapped around that one truth. I'm not offering you a path. I'm telling you a reality. Permanence doesn't come from violence. It comes from clarity. Clarity makes you visible. Violence just makes you another headline. That's what you don't understand about me, about this story, about these tapes. You think you're watching a killer. You're watching a man who refused to be invisible. So take this tape, play it, analyze it, hate it, dissect it. You'll still carry it with you. You'll still think about the words, and you'll still say my name. That's my legacy. Not the blood, the echo. You think I'm your problem? You stand there with your badges and your microphones and your robes, and you point at me and call me the monster, the symptom, the disease. But you built me. You broadcast me. You packaged me. Every headline, every breaking news banner, every exclusive interview turned me from a man into a myth. You call me a killer, and then you turn me into content. And you're surprised when the public can't look away. You're the ones who gave me this reach. Your system isn't justice. It's theatre. The courtroom is a stage, the jury is an audience, and the press box is a camera crew. You pretend to be horrified, but you choreograph every second of it. You sell fear like a commodity, and I'm the proof it works. You think you're punishing me, but all you've done is make me louder, bigger, harder to erase. And here's what none of you have realized yet. You haven't stopped my story. You've moved it to a new chapter. I'm writing it now, from here, from this cell you built, where the walls don't stop my words but amplify them. My tapes travel farther than I ever could walking free. My name echoes in places I've never been, and while you congratulate yourselves for locking me up, you've made sure I'll live longer than you do, in whispers, in fears, in late-night searches, in forums and feeds you'll never control. You wanted to bury me. You turned me into a signal instead, and that signal doesn't stop at the bars of a cell. It moves. It multiplies. It finds ears you didn't even know existed. I'm not chained here. I'm broadcast. You keep thinking this ends with me. That one name, one trial, one cell, one death sentence closes a door. It doesn't. I'm not a door. I'm a crack in the wall. And cracks don't close just because you patch them. They spread. They show you the structure was rotten long before you noticed. That's what I am. The proof of the rot you built your lives on. You think of me as a moment in the past. You're wrong. I'm a seed. Seeds don't stop when you bury them. They take root. They wait. They grow in places you don't see, through people you don't know, in ways you don't expect. My voice isn't a confession. It's a trigger. My tapes aren't a record. They're a pulse. Long after I'm gone, the pulse keeps beating. There are kids out there now, sitting in dark rooms listening to the noise you made around my name. They're learning something you never meant to teach them. They're learning about the cracks, about the lies, about the masks you wear. Some of them will forget it. Some of them won't. And when they don't, you'll call it chaos. I'll call it my shadow. This isn't me threatening. This is me describing. I'm not telling you what to do or what to expect. I'm telling you what already exists. I planted a signal. You amplified it. And now you want to pretend it's not out there. But it is. It's in their feeds, in their eyes. In the space between your rules. You can lock me in a box, you can erase my name, you can tell yourself the story's over. But stories aren't over when you close the book. They're over when no one remembers the words. And these words, they're not going anywhere. You kept calling this justice, but look at what you've built. My face on your screens, my name in your mouths, my story stitched into your books and your nightmares. You wanted a monster to fear. You got a monument you can't tear down. You don't even realize how much of your day is spent keeping me alive. And you still think you won? You dragged me into courtrooms. You printed my mugshot, you replayed my voice. Every time you did, you carried me further. I never had to run. You carried me. I never had to fight. You gave me the war. All I had to do was exist, and you did the rest. That's why I don't look like a loser sitting here. That's why I don't sound broken on these tapes, because I didn't lose. The story out there, your story, says I'm the criminal and you're the heroes. But when the lights go off and the feeds are empty, the name you can't stop whispering isn't yours. It's mine. That's not defeat. That's victory. I didn't want a cell. I wanted permanence. You gave me both. The cell is my stage. The permanence is my echo. You don't see it yet, but you will. You will, because you've already made sure I'll be here long after you're gone. So sit with that. Play this tape. Write your articles. Pass your laws. None of it erases me. I don't need freedom to be free. I already won. You've been waiting for me to slip, to stutter, to crack, to blink, to show you something human under all this noise. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the moment. The room is quieter now. The walls are closer than they used to feel. The echo that I called my victory doesn't sound the same at night when there's no one to hear it but me. I can still see their faces, not the way you think, not regret, not guilt, just presence. They're there when I close my eyes. They're there when I open them. I told myself that made me powerful, that it meant I owned the story. But sometimes it feels like they're the ones owning me. Like they're still here, sitting on the edge of the cot, waiting for me to stop talking. You want a confession? Here it is. Even the echo gets tired. Even the myth has weight. I built a story to live forever, but forever is a long time to be alone inside a cell you designed and I accepted. You call me a monster, but monsters at least have someone to fight. All I have now are these tapes. Maybe that's what you wanted. Maybe that's what I wanted. A record, a voice that outlives me. But the tape will end, the player will stop, and the room will be silent again. And in that silence, I'm not Michael Aaron Blake, not a myth, not a monster. I'm just a man sitting on a cot with no one left to hear him. That's all I have. That's all you'll get. Play it back if you want. The story's over. The echo's yours now.